going to work on the newbies, but I'm going to work on a journal. If you want to look back at this morning, in fact, this is what we did this morning, this piece.
Oh, can I bring it forward? I'm going to go for it, thank you. Right.
Behind me. And I'm going to work with the paint again, but on a journal. Thank you. Right, so I want to work on a journal because the technique I did this morning was painting on an A3 piece of paper, which is just a brush and some paint. But actually, there's a few things to think about when you're painting on a journal. And most people, you probably don't even think about it, but it's something that I've thought about. And when I've done it, I've made all sorts of errors, and I thought I'd try and help people. So when I just coming to this bit here, I actually try and take my pigment to the next page beyond. So it's almost a bit like a double page spread. Even if it's not side by side, even if it's top and bottom, I still try and do it. And I try and extend my artwork beyond if I can. And so I thought I'd show you on this part how I got the paint on without spoiling all the other pages in your journal. Because that's a big problem.
That's what you can do, right.
So I'm going to stick to the similar colours. In fact, I'm just going to basically use the blue. And I'm always work on a big tile. I've got one at home that's even bigger than this because I just find it's easier, and it's easy just to mop up after. So there's my pigment. In fact, I might add a bit of pink in there because I've got some out from the sun.
No, are these some of our multi-surface paints?
This is our gorgeous multi-surface, which really are multi-surface. They pretty well go on anything and everything, particularly fabrics. They're permanent on fabric as long as you heat set them with a hot iron.
Rightio.
And they go on whiteboard, MDF. We used them this morning on MDF, and so I'm just going to put a little bit of water in because I just want the colours to move and blend. The technique is to isolate your page, so I'm going to go on this one, so I'm isolating it on its own. I'm going to place it down. You can see that's another page I've already done, like that, and then when you open it up back to where it belongs, you must make sure you've got a bigger piece of paper in between. Like that. That's it. Simple as. And I mean, I haven't gone quite to the edges on this one, but if I had, you don't want the pigment to seep down to the pages behind or the pages that are coming. So it's just something to bear in mind. And also, I wouldn't waste that. I'd either put a piece of fabric on it or a bit of, we've got Bockingford on the show, which is our watercolour paper that we use all the time. Hot press, beautiful, beautiful, professional, archival, acid-free watercolour paper. Can't recommend it highly enough. And also on here, just as it's beginning to go shiny, not dry, not wet, you can flick some water at it and it sort of bleaches it out. And that can make really nice textures. But leave this piece of paper in until it's dried.
Rightio.
Okay, so that's how I do the top part.
Do you speed up that drying process, or are you happy just to leave it?
You can do, but I would rather not because I want the blue and the pink to join and make lovely purples and shades of pink and shades of blue. And if you force dry it, you're stopping that blending and bleeding of the pigments. So I prefer not to. So what I'm going to do is, while that's drying up there, I'm going to work on bits and bobs that are going to go on this piece here, and I want to work on our lovely Pisces. But what I'm going to do, Dan, is I'm not going to use the whole lot. So I'm going to stamp her, and then with scissors I'm going to cut some of her off.
There's a lot more that not physically on the stamp. You're going to cut the stamp, are you, Cathy?
No. Just the stamped image once it's stamped. And then it dries pretty quickly. I've used Versifying Claire, the black. But I don't want to smudge it as I'm trimming her off. So we'll just dry her off.
Now, when you're designing, I'm always intrigued by this. I meet people who can draw and design stamps and things. Have you got to be really considerate? For example, you can see at some parts every hair strand.
Yes.
Whereas some inferior stamp qualities, I think that's not achievable. With this, it is. So, if you've still got to be careful about how close you put lines together.
When I'm drawing it?
Yes.
Yes, you do. You have to have a minimum thickness of line. Obviously, there's no maximum because you can go up to silhouettes, but you do have to have a minimum. But actually, I mean, these are deep etched and you can get really, really fine.
I can see almost like every line in her eyebrow and her eyelash, so I can't see it getting much thinner than that.
So what I want to do is I actually want to lose, I don't mind a little bit of the fish in, so I want her to be like that. So what I do is with a pencil, I'm going to mark the edge of the paper so I know where to cut, and here, and I just want right angles. And I mean, you can do it with a ruler if you're not sure where to cut. I'm just going to wing it.
Wow.
And hope for the best.
That's too short sometimes.
Yeah. And so she's going to sit just there coming in. But doesn't that, you can see, you can almost imagine her body's off here. She doesn't look like she's been cut too short or anything. And then on here, there's a stamp that one of our pink inkers on our group Facebook page messaged in, and she said, "Oh, Cathie, I don't know whether this is a piece of wood or some water."
Yeah.
And everyone on the page was saying, "It can be anything you want it to be, Janet." And so I thought I'm going to use this to show her how I would use it on this page.
It can almost be her hair. I know it's different from the Aquarius one, but actually it could come into Pisces here, couldn't it?
It could really be anything, and that's why I love it, because I think it's so adaptable and versatile. I mean, it's basically just pattern and shape, isn't it? And then we're going to just layer it up. And this, I'm using VersaFine Claire again, and this is Morning Mist. So it's not a black, it's a grey. No, hang on, I'll do it the other way round. In fact, I'm going to slightly stagger it so it doesn't look too even. And of course I do know that she's going to be there, so this is going behind her, right? And the reason I haven't actually stamped her straight on my journal is because I don't want her to have a blue face.
Yes, okay.
Because she'd look cold, wouldn't she? And I don't want that, and that's why I've done it the way I've done it. And so we're just going to move this up, and then the next one I'm going to do, let's do it that way. I'm going to do second impression, so hopefully it's going to fade a little bit, and a bit less, and a bit less.
Ah, so much like your colour.
Yeah, so it's grading up.
Away. Yeah, that's right.
And then what I'll do is I'll actually add a bit of pigment as well to help that, to make her pop forward. So I want a little bit of purple. In fact, I won't use purple. I'm going to use the blue and the pink because I've got it out. This is Atlantic Blue and our Fuchsia Pink. I'm going to use them together. I'm trying to be very tidy and clear. I normally go straight on my tile, but I'm trying to be
tidy and clear for us.
I'm trying to be good.
Maybe you're not doing it for us, maybe you're doing it for yourself, but you ain't got to.
So I'm sort of just, I've worked out roughly where she's going to go, there, and then I'm going to add some more pigment, and I want it a bit darker, so I've got our lovely inky blue. This is great because it's sort of, when it's dilute, it's almost a bit grey blue. I love it. And then we're going to fade it out with some water, like this. So that's where she's going to go.
Lovely.
That we can almost afford to go a little bit darker still even. Right, now I've jumped ahead, and I'm going to have our Aquarius sitting above. I'm going to just snip a bit off, and we're going to have Pisces down here in the bottom corner, so they go like a bit of a pair. Now I don't know if you can see on this here, can you see that silver stardust powder? It's literally like liquid silver, and I'll show you how that's done.
And the ones in the little pots?
Yes.
Rightio.
And I did quite a lot of demo on them this morning because they're so versatile. You can use them in so many different ways. But what I'm going to do is let's go on a colour that is going to show up. That's what these are, aren't they? These are the... That's them. That's them used straight from the pot with just a little bit of water and used like a watercolour. And I've just gone round a little stamp, and that's just really to show the colours that we do. So you can use them neatly, quite thickly, and they're really, the colours are just amazing. Aren't they beautiful? There you go. And then I've hand painted with, you see the little, like little thongs? Yeah, they are with the same oh, look at that, wow, treasure chest. Yeah, the same powders. Aren't they striking? I'm going to put this back. So there's different ways of using this. Again, if you want to go back onto the earlier hour, you can see me going on to some MDF, and it's so pretty. But what we can do is, what I do is I actually use the lids as my palette, because you can reconstitute the powders once they're dry, and the water doesn't go in there and then it all dries up hard. It just stays in the lid. So we can use it like this, where we can use a brush and paint with it. You know, this is not going to show up too well on here because it's not dark enough. But this is one way of using it. But it's just such a good technique. If you do this way, where you wet your piece like that, and then with a palette just pick a little bit up. This is where it becomes like molten gold and molten silver, and or whatever. Or you can do it with all of the colours. And this is exactly how I've done this one here. But it has to go on to wet.
Yep.
Can you see the water is just going up through the powder, and it's almost becoming a bit like the silver's like liquid mercury. Can you,
there it goes. Yeah.
Can you see? But the best bits is where it's in lumps.
Yeah.
And it stays hard in the lump. So we can put a little bit more on, like that. And I literally would walk away. Don't touch it. Don't spray any more water. Walk away.
Okay.
And then when it's dry, it becomes this sort of molten. I mean, it looks fab, doesn't it?
Sometimes with like alchemy and things, I see heat tools being used to really make it bubble. And like, would you use a heat tool on this powder?
No, I'll just leave it.
Just leave it.
Yeah, leave it because it needs to absorb the water.
Okay.
To bind it, to make it stick to your surface.
I'm with you.
Now, what I want to do is I want to start using some of these little worker stamps, and I'm going to use Paradise Blue for the Versify. Now, can we get the top of the page as well?
Maybe.
I'll tell you what I'll do while I'm doing that, I'll turn it over like that, then we get all of it in. So obviously the main part is going to be on the bottom part, but I've got a little shell here, which I'm just going to stick to my finger, not using a platform because it would be a bit quicker.
20 minutes left on this. This is the last show, right?
It is the last show, yeah. I'm headed home after this.
Daddle home. You got any New Year plans?
No.
Yeah, me neither.
Go to bed early, I think.
Oh, that sounds perfect.
Yeah.
So fair, I say no plans. I've got some friends coming over to stay, but not going out anywhere.
No. I'm afraid I'm probably a bit too old for all that sort of
thing. Very much so. Ben will be out.
I'm sure he will.
Some youth club. Some under 18s. Get picked up by his mum towards the end.
Dear, how funny. Right, now what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to stick these down before I paint them. Now, you're going to think that's really bizarre. Why doesn't she paint them? It's because, actually, I'm thinking that if I paint them, I'm going to do them the wrong colours. And I want to paint them when they're in situ, if you know what I mean. So I can really eyeball.
Now, what was your theory? You turned, I'm going to call it the moon around quite a lot then. What were you looking for when you were doing that?
Well, because some parts are... This part's quite light, look. Yeah. And actually, I think that might be better now you've said that. I'm glad you said it. I mean, I'm also wanting to show the silver, which is here, and I'm also wanting it to show up to the best of its advantage. It almost looks
like a break in the clouds, doesn't it?
Yes, it does. And this is what I was saying earlier about, I think it was this show I was saying it, that it's a really good idea not to paint everything. Actually having white, leaving white...
Okay.
Is a really, really good idea. It just sort of, otherwise everything's full on colour, and just having just areas, I think is more pleasing to the eye.
Okay.
So
makes sense, doesn't it?
So we're going to go down with this. Which I think will be about like that. This, I haven't got a circle die, I just did a compass with a pencil and cut it out by hand.
Oh, old school compass.
Yes.
I haven't seen a compass since school.
Have you not?
No.
I've got my...
Thank goodness I was taught all about how to use it.
Look at my compass.
Well, that's long.
That was my husband's when he was a schoolboy.
Love it.
Yeah, and I've
between that and a protractor.
Yes, I think I've still got the protractor as well.
Yeah, all those angles I've worked out since school. Can't tell you.
So she's going to go on there like that, and I love this composition. I love it. So we're going to get a pair of scissors. I'm just going to snip this off here. And when I do my journals, Dan, this is not the final page. This is one, and this is actually what I did this morning. That's with the woven. And
okay.
I'll keep it and save it, and that'll go for another. In fact, there's Clara, which I did on another show, actually. So I cherry pick. This one was further back, and I picked this page because it's the colours of the sea, and that's why I've chosen it. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to use my pen, and I also want to add some colour. Now my colour choice for this is going to be really, really limited, and I'm going to do blues. I might do a little bit of flesh coloured. I've got a thing about flesh being blue. It just makes me think that they're really chilly.
So you don't like that?
No.
Okay.
No. Otherwise, I could have gone blue over the whole thing. So I'm thinking a little bit of blue. I'm going to add a little bit of pink because blue and pink makes the purple, which is what we've got in the background. And I'm going to leave a lot of the colour of the paper as it is. I'm not going to colour it at all, so it's going to be really subtle.
Okay.
Sometimes less is more.
Actually, it's quicker, it's easier.
And it's quicker, yeah, it is quicker. So I want her to have a bit of warmth to her skin, and I'm going to carry this purple onto her clothes. And it just goes to show that you don't need to spend hours and hours colouring, just a little tiny bit sometimes is all that is required.
So especially if you're making and selling, if you wish to do that?
Yes, yeah, we've got a full angel policy. As long as you make it yourself, you can sell what you make.
That's really intriguing, her leg going through the water, and you still see her foot through. Yeah. That must be, I mean, maybe because you've been doing it so long, you knew what you were doing, but I feel that's quite hard to achieve, to make it look right. Yes. Well, I don't know if you knew, I was a book illustrator for about 30 years. I've heard the rumours. Yeah, so this basically is no different to illustrating a story. If somebody gave me the story of this lady sitting on a lily pad, that's what I do. It's the same for doing stamp design as well. And I think also that might be why I quite like the white spaces, because we always used to leave the white spaces to put the copy, to put the text in. So, and then all I'm going to do is can give a little bit of. So I guess there's more freedom now. I guess you're working to a really quite, or are you with illustration? If you've got like a brief, have you got any license to do different bits and bobs, or is it pretty strict? What for stamps? No, sorry, for when you used to do. Oh no, you'd be given the text, and you had to make the illustrations match the text. But that was still from my own imagination, so I loved it. It was a brilliant job. I loved it. I missed it a little bit actually, although I don't miss the deadlines that go with it. Oh dear. It was literally back to back. I'd do one book and then not even a day off, and then the next one. There's lots of questions in my ear about what books. Ooh, if you can't say, you can't say. I did fairy tales, all children's books. Oh. Fairy tales and teddy bears, and as my husband says, I'm still live in fairyland, and I think that's because of my background. That's all right. There's worse places to be, but that's enough about Peterborough. Cathie, you live in fairyland. So I don't know. This is very pale, so I don't know if the camera's picking this up. But it's just, we see. You can. It's just a little bit of warmth to her skin, and then what I would do is I've got little. Now I don't want her to be just Aquarius. I actually want her to be like a water nymph. Oh, okay. Or water fairy. So I've got some 3D wings. So I'm going to just put that like that. Where does the name Pink Ink Designs come from? Is there a story there? No. Well, I mean, I've been a commercial artist all my life, and Mel actually worked with me for a few. When I used to go and do the shows as myself, she used to come and help me for quite a few years. And one day at the shows, I said, "Oh, do you fancy doing something together?" And she said, "Yes." And so we started doing designing on fabric. That's how Pink Ink actually first started. Okay. And we were doing it for quite some time, and then somebody said, "Gosh, you know, these designs would be great as stamps." And so we thought, all right, let's have a try. And we did. You know of that world already, like stamp world, craft world? A little bit. Yeah. Not hugely, but yeah. Now I'm going to join these up to the top. So excuse me while I just do this so you can see. No, this is really fun. That was that second page that you did at the start of the show, and you followed on the stamps going up, didn't you? And this, I mean, it's not very much on here, just a little bit of colour and some shells, but I think it connects the top page to the bottom. And if you're not sure about drawing freehand, just get a ruler and pop it in. Whoops.
There we are. And then just to finish off, we've got a couple of sentiments.
What are our options?
Yeah, I mean I could use both, or I just think I might use one. And all I'm going to do is literally put a pen mark round.
You know what, that top section there, you very, very rarely see that done on especially on a long book like this.
Yeah.
But that just completely changes what we're looking at, doesn't it?
I think so. And you know, you don't have to be overly creative. Just use one little tiny stamp. I mean, we've got the little starfish would look great hanging from there, or you could do a mixture of the shells and the starfish. And that's pretty much it. I think when I get home, I'm going to just deepen some of these bits behind, so it picks up this purple.
Oh yeah.
But I think pretty much that's my journal page.
Isn't it beautiful? Now you know you've got another techniquey bit to show us.
Yes,
I'll let you get ready for that. Give me that time.
Right. Well, this I think I did this one this morning. And yes, I did do this one this morning, and I did the technique, but because it's here and it literally just takes a nano, I want to show.
It was the woven stencil and the clear texture paste.
Yes.
So
I don't know.
Ink.
I mean, you can't see it very well because it is obviously clear, but there you can just see it sitting on the surface of my beautiful piece of painting on my Bockingford. And what I want to do is I want to use a colour that's deeper than the background, so that it's going to stain the open areas, but the paste is going to act like a bit like batik. You know, when you do batik and you use wax on fabric.
I know batik.
Oh, don't you? Oh, so fantastic.
What are you thinking?
Well, batik is a really old-fashioned, I mean, it's so old technique where you use wax as a resist on fabric, and then you add your pigments, and wherever the wax is, the pigment doesn't go.
Okay.
And it's the same thing but on paper.
Nice.
So I'm going to do this, and then we're going to spray the bottom part. So this dark is going to go, so if you can see, that is going to run down through the water.
Oh, here we go.
There you go.
Oh wow, it's like the start of Killing Eve.
Yeah, and then what you do is just leave it, let it do its own thing.
Yeah, yeah. That's the coolest thing, Cathie.
It's cool, isn't it?
I love it. Yeah, yeah.
And then when it's dry, you get a cloth and make the cloth slightly damp, and then buff this. And where all this multi-surface paint is sat on top of the paste, it comes off.
Right.
And then this blue and pink that I've used goes on the paper between the texture
highlights.
paste. Wow, it's cool. so pretty. I mean, we can force dry if we've got time after my next little demo, and we can see what it looks like.
Well, we'll see. We've got 5.5 minutes, maybe.
Yeah, well, let's see. So I've done this technique before, and it's really, really popular, and everybody loves it. So I'm going to do it again. I'm wanting to make some cards, and rather than doing dead straight or going straight the whole way off your paper, I want to just paint a clear little square. And now I do it with clear water, but what you can do, if you add a little bit of pigment, you can see where you're going. It works better with clear because then obviously your colours are, if you want to use yellow and stuff, your colours are nice and clean. But, so that's now wet, right?
Okay.
And I'm going to put some more water on it, like that. And I keep it wet, don't let it dry. And then I'm going to add some pigment, like this.
Feels like a very controlled explosion here, like not going out of the lines.
Yeah, well, I mean, you can mix it up, you can just drop a little bit in and it does its own thing. I love it. We can use a bit more pigment, make it a bit darker. We can flick some water in it if necessary. It's probably a bit wet to do that, but you can flick some water in and it bleaches it out. And we can also pop in our stardust powders to do these sort of bombs. And oh, love it, love that. It's such a cool technique. So that's basically your background, and then with the rest of it, you're going to wait for that to dry.
Okay.
And then this is where you use your little, this stamp. I love this stamp. Let's go on with, I think we've got a purpley pink. That'll do.
Really cool. So your stardust and your multi-surface, they're the two we've just used there.
Yeah. So this is a bit like an anemone.
This is from Pisces, isn't it?
I think this is from
That one?
Pisces. Yes,
Yep.
from Pisces. Like that.
Could be corally, could be seaweedy,
Yeah,
could be very florally, could be a daisy.
Yeah, and then with my black pen, this is probably a bit fat, but we'll do it all the same. And I love the fact that it's uneven.
Yeah.
It looks like a watercolour painting. And then if you want to tie it in, do an edge. If you want to do it with a ruler, do it with a ruler. But even with wibble wobble, it kind of holds it all together. And I'll just show you some little samples that I've spent a little bit more time on.
Isn't it quick?
Yeah.
Now, if that was going to be a card front,
Yeah.
would you cut that out? Would you be ideally scoring it along here?
Season 22. I would give it an edge, say like 2 centimetre edge, and then probably matte and layer it. But these are the ones that I've done. So that and that.
Yeah.
Really, really simple. And then look at these little miniature ones. They're so cool. Now this crab hasn't come from this set, but this is one I did last time.
That could be the little froggy coming up.
Yeah, but imagine if it was just a frog and just a line outside, initial it and date it, and it's an original piece of work. No background, no two are the same.
Yeah.
So if you got that, you think, whoa, you know, and imagine framing them 3 in a row or something.
You know what, I'm a big fan of doing larger pieces, like maybe you've got lots of ink left over, you do larger pieces, like an A4 piece, and you cut them up, and I get that. But the white space here, I think the white space really accentuates. Majority of that is white.
Yes, absolutely. And then, of course, you know, if you think that that's not got enough colour, add some colour to it. We can make them pink. So, you know, it could be really, really simple. It could be, you could take it a little bit further if you wanted to. So that's my quick demo.